All right. So something I want to hit before we like super get into this. Everyone go into your options window. When you get in your option window, at the bottom of that screen, you have a button that says export. You can import and export your keybinds. Scrapper has a lot of buttons to hit. If you need to rebind your skills just so you can play this class, export your current keybinds so that you can import and export your keybinds whenever you play this class and play a different class. Super easy, it saves it locally. If you change computers, you can bring that over to your next computer. You can even name it what you want.
It's good to know.
Yeah, I have one set up for like the Winter's Day bell ringing thing. I have that set up specifically so that I can play that and then switch back to keybinds that I care about. Definitely when you figure out a Scrapper keybind set that works for you, export that. Because there are a lot of buttons to hit.
I guess since you're in options, also a good thing is take off auto-targeting.
Underneath the targeting option under your control options, there is a button that says toggle auto targeting. Bind that to something you'll never hit so that when you play classes where you don't want your skills to target onto enemies, you can hit that when you're playing them and just like turn it off.
Yeah, because one thing, there's virtually no reason for you to really want to target anything as a heal scrapper.
Or as like a heal willbender. And probably as a firebrand too, actually.
And especially when you're using your fumigate, always try to get off having a target so that you're kind of just spraying directly in front of you.
I didn't hear you, Harmony. I hear the clicks whenever you queue. And I see the cat pop up, but I hear nothing.
I was muted. Oops.
Ah. That'll do it.
Do you guys use Action Cam when you play Scrapper?
I do. Some people hate it. I play Scrapper and Action Cam.
I do not play an action cam. So, I mean, you can see, if it helps you, you can use it, but you don't need it. But certainly you want auto-targeting off.
Okay, that's what I usually have is Action Cam with auto targeting off.
I mean, Chase uses it, and I know he's talked about it before. He makes very good cases for it. I just, I don't really get into it as much.
It's one of those, like, if it works for you, do it. If it doesn't, don't. It does take getting used to if you try playing it, though.
Sure. But if you're bored, it's a good way to mix things up.
Yes.
I turn my brain off when I play this class, so it's, yeah.
I know back when I first started playing Scrapper, I did not have auto-targeting off. And I definitely noticed a difference in my cleanses, because if you're targeting someone behind you with, like, Fumigate, and everyone's in front of you, like, you lose virtually all of that.
Alright. Where to begin on Scrapper? Like I said in the build channel for NG, everything in this build is built around doing condition cleanse and giving barrier to people with protection, so cover boons. That said, going over every skill in the kit would take a while, so we're gonna not do that. We're gonna go over more like utilization of those skills in an effective way, because there are times where there's just you don't want to hit a button even though it's like off cooldown. the way that Tiger and I play this class is just slightly different from each other. But the general gist of how the skills are used doesn't really change. If we're pushing up on this, say this ring of death here is an enemy group, you have a bulwark gyro that pulses barrier to people. Pulses a lot on the first hit. If we are this close to the enemy group, you should have already hit bulwark gyro. You want your ring from your bulwark gyro to basically be touching that external red ring that's coming from them. That's about how far out you want to be whenever you're hitting that bulwark gyro, because it takes time for that barrier to get up. Plus, you're going to get super speed to close that gap very, very fast. You might get some pulls coming up on you, but your firebrand should be giving you stab. Whenever you're pushing in like that too, so you're going to start from further back, super speed will be called for, and you'll hit like your function gyro to give the initial burst. As you get in, you'll hit bulwark gyro. So by the time you get there, you have like 6k barrier, which is going to effectively eat one Zerker hit from an F1. When I'm playing and pushing like that, I try to keep hitting Purge Gyro and Bulwark Gyro at the same time. They have the same cooldown. Always hit Purge Gyro first. If you don't, and you blast it, and you have Bulwark Gyro first, you'll get Area Swiftness. Not useful. You do it the other way around, where you hit Cleanse Purge Gyro first, and then you hit Bulwark Gyro, you get Condition Cleanse.
Yes, just, you know, if you're not sure, blasting light fields is the goal there.
Well, giving swiftness to your party isn't necessarily a bad thing. When you're grinding on people, you want to pull conditions off because you're giving regen, which is going to heal them.
So on a push in, are you able to get a dodge in, or are you just getting your gyros off?
I don't dodge very much in combat. I only dodge when we're pushing through people. If we're pushing up on people, I'm not dodging because I have super speed and keeping up. The big thing about NG, it's like skills like Fumigate, your bandage blasts, a lot of your arrow skills, they're targeted in front of you. So you want to be slightly behind, like tag.
And your gyros go off pretty quick. Like if you're trying them out now, like you can pop it and then dodge, and it shouldn't interrupt it whatsoever.
You can actually hit it while you're on the ground. So if you get disabled, you can hit your gyros because they're instant cast.
And also being in what is it called, party view, where you just see yourself and your 4 party members. You know, if you can do that, that's where you should be in, and glancing up at your party helps, because maybe you can save your cleanse gyro because you see there's not a lot of conditions, but you know, you're getting hit with damage or something. Like keeping an eye on your party's health and conditions is very helpful.
So up here we have a fear turret. Go ahead and run into that and look what skills do not get put on the cooldown of fear. You can cast every one of those skills while you're feared. Which you can also do when you're on the ground. The Crypt, that's part of the reason I don't dodge directly into combat, because I can still provide coverage to people. Even if I get CC'd, I can still help the party.
Gotcha.
If you're pushing up on a group and you've hit both of those gyros, and like we're gonna push through them, dodge through them. Your gyros will follow you. They will continue to put out condition cleanse, barriers. They're still gonna be useful, but like if you have to dodge, dodge obviously. But if you're just pushing up on groups, you don't have to dodge. Super speed will carry you to tag. Another useful thing, so whenever we're pushing on groups, like doing a fake push, firebrands are going to put stab down. As we push up, you as the scrapper also have stab in defense field. This only gives stab when you hit people. You have to hit people with it, with that AoE, otherwise it will not give them stab. It'll just block projectiles. So a lot of the ground targeting stuff that you're doing on Scrapper, you want to put them essentially at your feet. But you want to put the ring, like at the edge of the ring at your feet. Reason being, you're generally behind your friends. Not by much, but by enough that it matters. You want to place that skill down just in front of you as you're moving to give boons to the people in front of you. If people are behind you, they're already too far from tag. Because the radius on most Ninja things is anywhere between 240 and 360. So like we pushed into combat here, you've hit your gyros and we're on them. We start taking incredible heat and you're still in short bow. I don't know about you, Tiger, I have an order that I've figured out works best for condition cleanse and heals. It's gonna be 4, 3, 2, 5.
Mine is slightly different, but
Same
essentially
premise.
I go 4, 2, 3, 5. But I always try to do 5 last because I try to get the benefits of the other stuff rather than the extra CC out of 5. So I kind of feel like I try to do 4 too because I'm trying to blast might when we're running into stuff, and then I do the 3, 5, 3 for the extra.
You cut out, Tiger.
And then, sorry, 3 for the extra condition cleanse and heals, and then 5 last just for the little super speed and maybe some stun, and then I get out of short bow.
That's the biggest thing. Once all 4 of your short bow skills are on cooldown, drop it for a different kit. There is minor debate. Well, actually, one more thing useful about short bow. If we're blasting might, so we're stacking for might, it's 4, 2, no other skills. And when you're doing that, you can hit 4 and then 2 immediately, and then both of them will go off. You don't have to wait for the weapon skill to finish casting to cast 2. You do it super fast, one after the other. You can like buffer that input.
And you should generally be in short, like if we're starting a push, you should always be in short bow to first blast that might, and then once we start getting in, you can use those last 2 skills and then switch to something else.
But don't use 3 when we're stacking might. It's a dark field. Doesn't help. Very noticeable when people do it. It's a giant field on the ground.
That's also another reason that I do the 4-2 as part of my rotation, so that whether we're stacking might or we're running through a mob, it's kind of just muscle memory at that point when I go into short bow.
But we push up on a group, we're taking a bunch of heat. You burn both your gyros. You burn all your short bow skills. There's a little bit of consternation with which one you should go into first. Do you have your medkit? Do you have your elixir? After I've used all my short bow skills, I almost always go into Elixir and immediately hit Fumigate. And start spraying it onto the friends. Always, always, always let this skill finish casting. If you dodge, if you hit 2, 1, you hit your F1 heal skill, you drop the kit, it stops casting. It takes 2.25 seconds to cast, so if you cancel it, it stops cleansing conditions and you won't get the conditions removed from people. This is the strongest condition cleanse in the kit.
And I don't know if it helps, maybe you know, Chase, but when as long, you know, like I said, you don't want to be targeting anything when you're using that skill. And I always like kind of wave back and forth in the group.
Same.
I don't know if it helps or not, but I try to like fumigate over everyone in hopes that it's like if they have a condition, it's cleansing them.
It seems to work. The best thing about hitting Fumigate, and for me going into Elixir first, if you hit Fumigate right at the start of it, you're going to make sure people aren't getting caught in the mobs, but it's also the only downtime in the kit. It's the only time when you're playing Scrapper where there's no buttons to hit, because you don't want to cancel the cast. So it gives you 2 seconds to actually think about what you're going to do next. Gives you a chance to look at your party members. If your party members are low, you have Super Elixir. This heals a wrap load, only on the initial hit. It pulses heals afterwards, it pulls condition. But the big thing is it healed a shit load on that initial hit. So you want to throw that on your feet. If we're moving forward, again, you want to aim that just slightly ahead of you. Otherwise, you'll miss. That is also a light field, which means you can blast it for condition cleanse. And you do that with Acid Bomb. If we're grinding, cancel this skill. Do that by stowing weapon. You should have a button bound to it. It's usually your weapon swap key. If you just press that, you'll just drop straight to the ground. Swapping over to medkit will not do it. Swapping to short bow will, because you're using your weapon swap key. Always cancel if you Acid Bomb. Or if you're trying to catch up to tag, you can turn around and throw yourself in a different direction.
Yes, if you're not good at reorientating your screen, I would not suggest doing that. If you are good at it, yes, you can be very successful with using it as a movement skill.
Don't use it on stairs, or on bridges, or on walls, unless you're very confident with canceling it, or you will throw yourself out of objectives. So, be aware of that.
Those are really the only 3 skills in that kit that you need, though.
Yeah, so skill 2 can give some swiftness. It's not worth it. And skill 1's damage and weakness, which, because you're not running any expertise, it's not useful. So 3, 5, 4. Always let 3 channel. Once you've gotten through all those, if you went into medkit first, that's fine. Swap to the kit you didn't use. For me, that's going from Elixir Gun into medkit. For me, I struggle with medkit. Tiger doesn't, so I'll let him talk about medkit.
For medkit, it's very simple. I'll throw 5, the infusion bomb.
Where are you throwing now?
I throw it usually right. I try to throw it in the, like, ahead of the bulk of the group. Which is, if I'm slightly behind tag, it's usually, like, a bit in front of me. Because when you throw infusion bomb down, by the time you run across it, it goes off. So I usually throw it down and immediately hit 3. so that the infusion bomb goes off, you get the benefits from that, you get the cleanse from 3, and then you also get a water blast, so it's a little extra heal. So you're getting a bunch of stuff out of, 2 moves. After that blast, I hit 4, and then I try to face the bulk of the group again, and then I hit 2 to, do that shotgun heal blast through the group. And then, once I'm done with that, and for me it's the same. I usually try to do short bow, elixir gun, med kit. So once you're done with this kit, if you're running that type of rotation, you should be able to go back into your short bow, and your skills should either be off cooldown or just maybe like 5 might be coming back up or something, but they should be mostly ready to go. But for medkit, that's how I go through that. Yeah, 5, 3, 4, 2.
With the infusion bomb just slightly ahead of tag. So if we're like running forward, you're gonna just throw it slightly ahead of us.
Yes, just slightly ahead, so that, like, if you throw it ahead of you and run through it, and then hit 3, you'll get the water blast off of it, and that's generally what you're trying to get out of it. It's a 1 second fuse, so it goes off pretty quickly. So I just slightly ahead of the bulk of the group. Because you're you get a little bit of a radius on your 3 too. So like even if you pass by the circle, like your radius of 3 will still be in the fusion bomb. So it should still go off and get the benefits.
One of the big things I know from playing this, if we are grinding on enemy groups, if you have a skill that's off cooldown that's effective for healing, use it. Because even if parts of your party have full health, those heals will go to other people. If boons are getting removed or regen's getting removed, you're giving those boons back to people. So like, if we're grinding or we're sitting on a gate in siege, keep heals going. Because if an enemy group pushes on us, if we're in arrow cart fire and we've lost a bunch of health, they're going to come out and instantly pop us.
And even if you're not using any of your tool belt skills, and you're not using bulwark or the cleanse gyro, you should, like, if we're taking any type of damage or anything like that, you should be able to just rotate through your short bow, your elixir gun, your med kit. Like, when they say don't use big skills, I don't consider anything in any of those kits big skills, because all my kits do something that I can do to help the group. So whatever one is next in my lineup, when I go into it, I know what I have in there to help the group. So I just rotate through those freely. The gyros, your F1 heal skill, your stun break, and my function gyros, and defense field, those are the ones that I hold for like specific times. But your kits, just cycle through them. Get kind of a rotation down. Chase and I gave you some different options of what you can do for that, but try to get that rotation down and just cycle through them. And even just doing that, like that right there alone, will keep your heals up, keep your condition cleanse going. And one thing I wanted to say too is your med, don't think that like camping med kit, you're like, I'm just gonna camp med kit and heal. Like, all your kits heal, all your kits do stuff that help the group. So try to get away from the mentality that like med kit is your heal. All your different kits heal, give barrier, cleanse conditions, so like they're all important. So just constantly be rotating through those and go to the one where they're back up. If you ever get to a point where you go back to short bow and it's not off cooldown, then we're probably getting hammered pretty hard.
So one of the big things about that is like every kit that you have has healing, like you said, but also like whenever you cleanse conditions, you're also healing people. So you're giving them regen to help keep their health up. I know for me, when we're sitting on gates, the only 2 skills that I won't, well, only 3 skills I won't really use are Bulwark Gyro. I'll save my Function Gyros and I'll save my Bandage Self.
Yeah, same here.
Purge Gyro is not in that. I will hit Purge Gyro when we are sitting on gates in Siege because that's healing people on top of everything else. And it's not just healing my party, that's healing everyone. If you passively keep the groups at full health, you are able to sustain longer on gates. If you're playing the class correctly and you're giving yourself stab and defense fields, you should be one of the last people to die. For super speed, there are many sources of super speed in this build. If you're playing it fully optimally, you'll hit 50 to 60% uptime for your line with super speed, which is absurd. To do that though, like there's a certain rhythm to kind of go through it to space your super speed out correctly. Super speed doesn't do anything if we're not in combat. So if Hag is calling for super speed and we're pushing up on a group, hold that super speed for about a second and then drop it. So that as we start getting hit by them, then we're closing that gap. If we hit a veil, hit your super speed as soon as we hit the veil, because we're going to hit them and get into combat. But if we're just like pushing around, super speed doesn't do anything for non-combat. When super speed's called for, I use Function Gyro. And from that Function Gyro, as we get closer to the group, the super speed will then be increased by using Purge and Bulwark when we're pushing it. They nerfed the super speed immensely on NG a long time ago, but you can use it for those fast pushes by starting with Function and then using your gyros as we push on people.
Do you aim the Function Gyro in the same spot as the other ones? Like just slightly ahead, or?
I put it where if you put the ring where the ring is at your feet, like the edge of the ring is touching your feet, if you're moving forward when you do that, you'll always hit your line.
Yeah, it does have a slight cast time, so like you kind of gotta plan slightly ahead just for that little bit of time.
If we're stacked for super speed and movement, like if we're stacking for might and then we're gonna push on a group, putting that ring just ahead of you is enough to hit your entire line. And you. That Function Gyro does pull conditions because it gives protection. It also gives a not insignificant amount of barrier. Don't sleep on using that. If we're getting grinded on, don't sleep on that. Keep dropping those at your feet. They res downs, but meh, pretty bad.
They can finish people off too. It probably won't happen, but I think I just said last night, every once in a while I see my llama go off and it makes me happy, but I wouldn't use it for that purpose.
No, it's traded specifically to give barrier, and you want to use it for that purpose with the super speed that comes with it. Yes, Ex Machina. There is only one stun break in this entire kit. That is your only stun break.
Which for some reason I thought that was the group one, which is not.
It is not. So, being that that's the only stun break, if you are knocked down, you can still use defense field, if it's off cooldown, put Defense Field on your feet and then Stun Break. So you have stacks of stab to run away with.
So it's your only stun break, but it's also your highest regen. You think is worth it to cast it off cooldown?
If you are experienced with playing this class, you can get away with it. If you have never touched NG before, I would hold that skill for your stun break.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna stun like 5 of you. In Defense Field on your feet when you're stunned, and then immediately stun break it. Because you can cast it while you're stunned.
I often hit that skill unintentionally.
Which one?
Healing Mist. The way
Me
I have
too.
my the way I have it set up, it's in one of my buttons that, like, if I'm going to hit Defense Field, I sometimes accidentally hit it. But it gives extra regen, so I guess it's not a bad thing.
If people actually pay attention, all minstrels, water runes, you can run rebirth runes as a budget option. They're like 12 silver on the TP, or monk runes. Monk runes are really, really good, more heals. I prefer the boon duration. Both are good, but if you need budget option, you don't have to run them. And you don't have to run Ascended. Monk runes are good. I prefer water, but like there's both those answers are right. You can use either of them and they'll both be just as effective. They only impact how long your boons stick on or how much heals you do. They will do nothing to impact how much you condition cleanse. That is just how the kit works.
And if you just cycle through your kits and then use your big stuff, you know, as we discussed tonight, like, you don't even need to think about the condition cleanse aspect of it. If you just go through your skills, you're gonna get the cleanse. So I mean, focus more on, like, trying to get a pattern down for your skills as you're going through, and the conditions will just come along with it.
That's like the nutshelled version of how to actually use this class. Like, we could go on a tangent about what the skills actually do and line by line do it, but like, really it comes down to knowing you can go through every weapon skill in one kit. When you go into another kit, those weapon skills are still still cooling down. So when you come back to that weapon, it will be back up. So you're juggling 3 kits, but you're using all the skills because all of them are useful.
Yeah, and don't save stuff. Like, don't think like, oh, I'm gonna save this in case. Like, use everything in that kit, because, like you said, when you come back to it, then everything will be on a similar cooldown. There's really no reason to save stuff in the kits.
As a good example, the longest cooldown in the entire kit is Shortbow 5. All the other cooldowns line up very, very well. Somewhere between 8 and 16 seconds. A couple at 20. So, like, they'll be back up. By the time you get through them, you'll be able to use them again.
Except for those times we're trying to take Fire Keep with, you know, a dozen arrow carts raining on us.
That's good practice for figuring out how your rotation works, though.
Yeah, it definitely gives your fingers a workout.
If we are in a situation like that, though, like if we're getting hammered by arrow carts constantly, that'd be a moment where I'd hit Bulwark Gyro if I noticed my party's health getting low. That's where that party view would be really helpful. So if you see that your line is starting to get low, pop your Bulwark Gyro and then continue to try to heal them, just to keep their health as full as possible.
I think the only thing we didn't talk about was whatever you have poison field set for, your elixir gun tool belt skill. Really, all you need to do with that is, you know, put it down when we're in a big group of people. Put it on downs. They don't, you know, it stops their healing. But I mean, that one's pretty unimportant. It's just a little extra damage for you.
It does make people res slower, so if they're trying to hand res someone, it'll make it take longer. Used to be how you get bags on Scrapper, though. Now you just get bags by existing.
Does anybody have any questions? Any of the kits, any of the skills?
Swamp Step.
I personally save bandage. I personally save bandage self for like if I see a big spike in health loss in my group, I try to hit that and save that as like my big burst heal. I don't know if Chase uses it the same.
It is the single biggest heal skill in the entire kit. I have it shown healing for 6,600, but it also heals for an extra 3,000 regen. So like, I save it for when, oh god, we're dying.
Yeah, so sounds like we essentially use it for the same thing. That big, you know, if your party gets a big loss in health, and you're like, oh crap, you know, that's a good one to hit. If it's minor health loss, if you're just going through your rotation, your regen should probably cap that off fairly quickly.
Those are the 3 strongest heal skills in the kit. You don't always have access to Bandage Blast or Vital Burst. You will generally have access to Bandage Self, so that's like the big heals. Super Elixir is a big heal, but it is a light field, so if you put that down on waters when Firebrands are trying to do that, you'll get Condition Cleanse cleanses versus Condition Cleanse blasts versus heal blasts. Now, if that's where you are in your rotation, like if you're going through a rotation and Commander calls for giant heals, if you just happen to be an Elixir, throw down that heal. Don't mess up your rotation for how you're going through it in the middle of a fight, because your cooldowns are generally going to be mapped in your brain, and as soon as you try to change that, it's gonna fuck you up.
And I'll say this, even as much as I've played the class, like, I sometimes go into the wrong kit, and I see... But the good thing is, if you go into the wrong kit and you see everything's on cooldown, then it's like, oh crap, that's not the kit I need to be in. And if you remember what you were just in, then obviously there's only one other option you can go to, so you can get into that, and then you should see no cooldowns.
If you have a Willbender in your line, you can do the same rotation you were doing before, except faster. That's the only difference. Any other burning questions?
So for the very first super speed, you don't cast the F1 skill.
Correct. I use
Okay.
function gyro because it's less valuable than bandage self.
Yeah, I would use that, or if you're running the stealth gyro, like stealth gyro is mainly just for the super speed. We don't really get much more out of it than that. Maybe if you're running in the tagline, it's good to like pop it before we're going into a group, because if someone marked the commander, it'll take that mark off, and you're also given the super speed. But that's about all it's really good for.
Cool.
Largo, that applies to every class in this game. If you run a stacking sigil, you have to have the same stacking sigil on an underwater weapon, or you lose your stacks when you go in the water. Yeah. So like I actually have, I've run 4 legendary sigils. I use one of them on an underwater weapon if I have to use like a sigil of bounty, because they're super expensive. It's almost worth it to make 5. But again, to play this class effectively, you can do it in full exotics. For the first like year and a half that I played this class, I played in exotics and I did just fine. There is damage as well as 2 different conditions that are in each of the 4 circles here. This is a fantastic time to like practice going through your kits to see what your skills do and actually get those rotations kind of baked into your brain.
For the short bow too, it's very helpful to read the descriptions, but just a little overview. When you're putting down your bow skills, when you put down the next one, if you want to get that little extra bonus, like if you hover over your 4 skill for bow, you get the main thing, and then there's the chain reaction. So your next short bow skill and the radius will grant additional protection to allies. So for 4 seconds, so if you're going 4, and then you go to Essence of Animated Sand, your 2 skill, you want to make sure when your 2 goes down, that it's hitting within that, the radiuses are crossing at some point, because then you get that little extra chain reaction bonus. And then the same thing if you go from 2 into 3, you'll get the additional might from chain reaction as long as you're within the radius of the last thing you put down. So as you're running along, I usually try to, because there's a little bit of a cast time, I try to do it slightly ahead of the bulk of the group so that it comes down on them, and then the next one just slightly ahead of that so that it's hitting the group but also hitting the last one, so you're getting those extra bonuses out of it.
So Harmony, where you're at, this is where I'd hit. That's where I'd hit the F1. Right when your health got about that low, that's where I'd mash F1.
Okay.
If you feel like you're in danger, like you feel like your health is low and you're in danger, so the F1 isn't just super speed for allies. It gives you 6 seconds of super speed, it gives you a shitload of heals, and it gives you protection, which is a Condi cleanse. Protection is a Condi cleanse. So everything in the kit that gives protection is also cleansing conditions, so you can use that to get a mobs off yourself. Any other burning questions? This class has a lot of stuff in it, and you really have to play it inside of a Zerg to really get a feel for it. But a area like this where you can just hit skills, take damage, and see the condition cleanse and arc DPS go up, you'll know the class is actually working. Because you won't be dying.
For the stacking sigils, what's better, life or benevolence?
You're basically boon duration capped, so benevolence is going to give you a little bit more bang for your buck. If you're in exotics, run the concentration one, bounty.
Cool.
If you're running water relic, water runes, absolutely run benevolence because that extra 25 boon duration that you're getting from the relics alone is absurd. Like, I'm just sitting here without the right utility, I'm popping 86% boon duration. If you find yourself needing to use a lot of dodges to really figure out how to play the class, every trait that you see and every sigil that you see that procs on weapon swap procs whenever you go into or out of a kit. So your energy sigil will proc when you swap weapons or swap kits. Kai, you could have just gyroed him.
True.
Oof, I just noticed I have a sigil of cleansing on my bow. I usually like to have energy.
Grip and or Thero, from a tag perspective, do you have any questions?
Nothing. Maybe just stealth gyro? Anything particular of note there?
It's not very good. So it does have essentially 3 seconds of stealth. If we hit a veil, don't immediately hit gyro as you hit the veil. Take a couple steps forward and then hit it. So that the stealth is extended, otherwise they'll kind of just do the same amount. It used to be broken. It's now trash.
Yeah, it went from being like a half a minute of stealth to like a few seconds. They really just gutted that one.
Yep. There's no questions on that. I did say I'm gonna cover damage scrapper real quick.
Oh, you did mention the possibility about using supply drop as well.
I need to fuck with it more. Supply drop probably has more use, but I need to fuck with it more to know.
Okay, I don't have any other questions. I was going to ask the sneak gyro as well.
Yeah, you can't use it to stack stealth. It just doesn't work that way.
That's fair. I think you've
Thoughts
covered
on
everything,
the-
though.
Thoughts on the bomb kit?
It takes a lot of skill to do. So like if you have the setup for it, great, but you're losing something that you don't really want to lose. Like you have to give up Bulwark, Purge, or Elixir Gun, and you don't really want to give up any of those. So like if we accidentally get hit or you get stuck in combat, you're stuck with a useless kit.
Yeah, I mean, you could have like different builds set up, but everyone running NG would have to do that. They'd have to be good at like doing the blast, swapping back to their other build. So I mean, it's possible. It's just a very coordinated effort.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I have a template set up so I can switch to it, but then if I get interrupted or something, I can't get back and I'm totally screwed then.
Yep, because then your rotation, if you dropped elixir, is done. You don't have purge gyros, so you're missing super speed. You're not getting barrier. You're missing something important.
Yeah.
Now there is a potential on Heal Scrapper that we might swap some people over to Supply Crate, but TBD.
And I still think like tagline one should be running stealth gyro, like I said, for just if they're tagging the commander, it just takes that off as you're going into battle.
All right, time for the faster, funnier version of Damage Scrapper. New relic. There's a reason we're running it. The whole point of this build is to use Thunderclap on engages. Don't use really much of the other skills. And then Flame Jet. If we are grinding on other groups, so say we're about this close to them, hit all 3 of your gyros. One of them is going to generate Might for you. Shredder Gyro is huge damage. And then Sneak Gyro gives you a 15% damage increase based on the relic. Everything else in the kit is there. It does stuff. But like, the point of the kit is to spam Flame Jet, Thunderclap. That is a stun break if you need it. That's a group stun break if you need it. But like, your entire point of this class is to basically hold 1 in Flame Jet, in Flamethrower, and hit Thunderclap. And then blast your gyros for more damage.
And one thing, the one trait in this, just looking to see which one it is.
Juggernaut.
Gyroscopic acceleration. Or wait, no, not that one. Wait, where's the one I'm...
Thinking the one that gives stab?
Object in
thinking?
motion.
That's the one.
You deal increased strike damage when you have stability, swiftness, or super speed. So when you're using your Flame Jet, go through your gyros, but like you kind of want to like space them out just slightly so that you're keeping up super speed the whole time, so that you're getting those additional bonuses. You're probably going to get stabbed from whoever's in your group, and then what was the other one? Swiftness. Like you usually have swiftness too, so
It's a super brain dead build. It doesn't really require a lot of effort to work. There's some weird niche tech things you can do with it, where you can run elixir for the acid bomb damage. But the real point of this build is to just be passive damage. It doesn't deal like high spike damage, but it will just constantly sweep downs. This one is one of those, like, it's a very easy to play class if you play DPS Scrapper. It's super, super easy. And the stuff that you learn from playing Heal Scrapper will make you better at playing, like, damn near every class. When you get good at playing classes that you can turn your brain off and just kind of follow tag and hit buttons, it makes it easier to watch what other groups are doing, and you'll start anticipating what they're doing before they do it.
Shock shield is a good one too to if you're playing damage scrapper.
If you need it. I wouldn't drop Flame Jet for it unless I'm getting rid of a Thunderclap. But that's just me. Don't hit that, it'll kill you. Don't hit 3.
I love the Asura with that skill. They like run and do like flips in the air while holding the hammer. Looks so awesome.
Yeah, that's been about an hour. Any questions over either of them? We don't have the damage scrapper build linked. We generally don't have enough heal scrappers to go around. Full Marauder, you need less precision than you think you do because no scope exists in your kit. And Chromatic Focus. So you get a bunch of increased chances to crit just by like existing.
Plus the Marauders gives you a little bit more health to work with.
But yeah, basically, if we end up with an abundance of scrappers, one thing that is good, so say we lose a couple lines and we're now up a scrapper. If you're not comfortable playing Hollow, because Hollow is very difficult to play, Damage Scrapper doesn't require you to go through a queue, and you're able to continue to provide support to your line by just dealing damage to things. It does not require a lot of effort to play. But that about covers it.
Awesome. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks so much.
Thanks very much, Quarks and Chase.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, I learned a lot. Thank you.
Yeah, I learned a lot too.
Good night, y'all.
Have a good night.